for me a pleasure to introduce Jesus. He's going to talk about the black letter, but the black letter not as we know it. It's more like how the black letter comes from Europe and travels to Mexico because of colonization, and later it stays there and becomes a part of identity of Mexico, and also how it's also part of his curriculum as a teacher. So it's for me super nice to see you again here in Paris all together, and also the possibility of showing people here how this tradition is so relevant for your culture. Thank you, Jesus.
Okay. So before I begin, I brought some Mexican candy, like spicy candy. So they are going to be coming to your seats in a couple of minutes. It has lollipops and soft candy, but with chili, so that we can like start to get in the mood to receive this thing that I brought here for me today. Okay, so hello everyone. I'm really glad to be here among so many friends and colleagues in person and in Paris. This exciting city was a perfect stage for the ATypI to be reunited again after these years of emailing, Zooming, Slacking, Google Meeting, masks, fears, hopes, and lockdowns. But more on that later. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, small clicks and it will be.
I am an associate professor at Benemérita Universidad Autónoma de Puebla, where for the past 6 years we have been experimenting with introductory courses to calligraphy, manual and digital lettering, and basic typeface design. By the way, this presentation and the material and the reflection on it will be about letterforms, not precisely type or typography. These are the lessons from the postmodern Mexican blackletter hand. I know this is like a kind of weird description, but I think fits as you will see later. When it comes to calligraphy, it is necessary to begin with the basics, including the practice of ductus and proportions, but also through the observation of exemplars that can be found in medieval manuscripts that display amazing and mesmerizing shapes, such as the Blackletter or the Gothic, in all its strength and darkness. It has always fascinated me, but also has struck me a bit familiar. Because the surroundings of the place where I grew up, it's full of such letterforms. But before I continue, I want to make a shout out to Dr. Geraldine Marshall from Birmingham, collaborator of the Center for Printing History and Culture and creator of the MTEL, the Marshall Taxonomy of Environmental Lettering, that is a comprehensive way to define and organize environmental lettering, taking into consideration its dimensions, materials, purpose, and most importantly, its protagonism as part of the public space. Her work led me to coin the concept of letterform environment, that is, all of those styles or details that surrounds us in our countries, cities, or neighborhoods. Paris is a great example of that Parisian spirit on its graphic design, but also in the letterforms of the use in streets, the posters, even street art. But this is not the only example. We could talk for hours about the Gaelic style in Dublin, the peculiar Basque letter A from northern Spain, or the fileteado porteño in Buenos Aires, to mention some references. It is highly probable that each and every one of our hometowns have their own letterforms vibe. In Mexico, as I said before, I grew up surrounded by black letters, like that of the Corona beer logo that is like really famous. It was made in the 1920s. Of course, the black letter in this was like a reference to a somewhat German drink that is supposed to be beer. But now this became like really Mexican. But there are also other examples like the newspaper. Well, this is a more Corona beer. The newspaper El Sol, it was founded in the 1940s, and through the following century, these shapes have increasingly appeared in sign paintings and letterings. There is no like a specific explanation on why this happened. I have like some theories. Of course, it began with the colonization of what is now Mexico, but also like those mostly medieval letter forms became like a royal or viceroyal kind of reference. So it became like part of the Mexican like cultural landscape, to say something. That is the reasons why we have so many black letters in the surroundings is still to be like understood. I was about to say revealed, but not revealed because I don't really know why does this happen. What I'm about to show you is just a part of a collection of black letters found in my hometown, where my wife Valeria Guerrero and I became some sort of black letter hunters. This collection began like 10 years ago with some photographs taken every once and then, but during the lockdowns, when we were forced to slow down, the chance of registering my favorite black letters appeared as a conscient exercise. I claim this collection comes from Puebla, as myself, but actually these letters come from many other small places. And I want to take like this opportunity to open the scope for the Mexican culture outside of Mexico City. These places are actually Puebla, Atlixco, Xochimilco, Cholula, Huejotzingo, Tochtepec, Tecali, Atempan, Teziutlán, Tlatlauquitepec, Tlaxcala, Mazatecochco, Chautempan, and Huamantla. I know, it sounds like tongue twisters. Some of the examples are made with various artisanal techniques, like the Poblana traditional pottery called talavera, that implies drawing with clay. This is like a really traditional artisany in Puebla. But the funny thing is that it's not quite calligraphic because, as I said, it's supposed to be drawn and then filled, and it's not even made with paint, but with colored clay. So the downtown, the main downtown in Puebla, it's full of this kind of tiles made with talavera. Of course, talavera is not a Mexican invent, it's from Spain. There are other examples like stone carving. There's like not really that much examples of stone carving. Actually, this belongs to probably the only one non-Catholic church in Puebla. This is from the late 19th century. But it's a weird case because, as you may know, Mexico is like a mainly Catholic country, and Puebla is the perfect example of that. But you can also find some Gothic or Blackletter influence made with brushes, like in this sign painting, tile setting. So this is a peculiar case because if you see the tiles up close, you can see how the person who made this had to break the tiles and make like little the parts of the letters. The letter G specifically is like kind of weird, no? There's also cases of joinery made with wood. This is where things start to look mostly weird, no? There are also multi-style lettering, combining Blackletter with many other shapes, always in the company of tacos, like in this case. Of course, when I say the Blackletter is combined with other styles, it's not just like around the letters, but also inside the letters. So this is something that you can say in taco places, chiles secos, crafts. This is also like Spanglish because it actually says el arte Mexican. I don't know why. Tortillas, butcher shops of pork, but also chicken. Clothing stores. This is actually like a kind of a sad story because this is one of the oldest pictures that I took. You can even tell because of the quality of the image. And when during the lockdown I tried to retake the picture, this place was permanently closed due to the lockdowns. Molotes and pelonas. This is like one of the most poblano things that you can find in my hometown. But also cakes, no? Places for language therapy. You can spot here that the name of the therapist is in Blackletter because it kind of gives her like a more prestigious appearance, no? I'm not italic or Roman, I'm Blackletter, so probably I'm more professional. Public mills. This is, well, that literally says that this is a mill for seeds and corn and stuff to make masa. Children education. You can actually see like the little Blackletter in the flag that the frog is holding. So it's not that the Blackletter always is the protagonist. Sometimes it's just like a reinforcement of the whole message. Restaurants, landmarks. This is like the explanation of how this city from Tlaxcala was founded. Cafes. This is like a massive lettering. And so on. No? This picture was taken just to show you the size of the letter. This is actually quite nice done. But you can also find this for music festivals or like town celebrations. This style, specific style of lettering, we call it in Mexico sonidero, and it's probably one of the most interesting applications. And yes, of course, we have Oktoberfest. It's not like you would imagine, but it's fun. We can also spot Blackletter in urban art, like graffiti bombs and like murals. So this is interesting because of the use of the spray cap, the flat spray cap. So I would never imagine to use it calligraphically, but it's interesting. And you can actually spot like the diamonds and some ornaments, no? And these street artists sometimes even have incursions in facade decorations, for example, like this one. And some of these influences, of course, come from the northern border of Mexico, where the Chicano culture is strongly intertwined with religion and street art and the decoration of cars and tattoos. But that is a whole other subject that goes beyond this talk because of its more sociological implications. There is also a strong vibe of the faith influence of this kind of uses. I don't know, probably the relation with the church specifically is due to the history or the ancient appeal that these letters could have. And finally, we have objects such as commemorative plaques, diplomas. One of the most traditional diplomas in Mexico during the whole 20th century were made with blackletter. But also with like specially featured black letters. These days that have been changing. Now the diplomas are mostly printed with sans serif, boring fonts. But there are some like institutions that still have calligraphers doing this for them. You can also find Ex Libris. This is from the 1972. House identifiers, sign painting, vehicle signing, and this is where it starts to get weird, if it's not weird enough already. Of course, you now might suspect that these models, even when more or less influenced by the speedball manuals, the letters are expressive beyond decoration. You can find tilted black letters, round-pointed, Roman capitalized black letters, non-contrasted, decorated italic-ish, back-slanted, italicized, and definitely non-traditional mixed exemplars. So probably the only way to describe them as a whole is like absolutely unapologetic black letters. This might put us in the vernacular territory, but to me that sounds like a mere curiosity, and I honestly think that it can be more than that. Here is where I began my approach as a professor, so the second shout-out of the day will be to my university, of course, to the Special Collections Library, Biblioteca José María Lafragua, to my colleague, Dr. Mara Serrano, and the faculty and students of Facultad de Arquitectura that have allowed me to conduct historical research on black letter forms. I mean, to do it like a more formal thing. But it has also led us to conform bachelor essays on how these letter forms are made. The students even get in touch with time painters, made some interviews, and we have even produced some digital interpretations. This is like an ongoing thing. You have to know that for the bachelor's degree in Mexico, you need to make like a final essay, but mostly are like dedicated to graphic design, not precisely to research. And when it comes to research, for some strange reason, nobody or almost nobody does like this local community research, and I think that's a waste. This also gave me the chance of coming in terms to my own interests, experiments, and influences that otherwise might seem off to the normal syllabus, but now is integrated organically to my teaching practice. Students especially have been key partners in crime on constructing calligraphy models in the style of our environmental lettering, still in development, but with enough enthusiasm to add these models to the classical ones. Of course, there is a long road until we can give or we can have tangible results or conclusions. So I'd rather have some possible ongoing lessons. One of those is to propose an everyday influenced academia. It's not a thing about practice versus theory, but a case of cultural allowance. For the initial learning, we have publications and somewhat well-proven theories and models like those of Claude Mediavilla, Rudolf Koch, and Edward Johnston. It's not about undermining the work of the great masters, but adding our visual environments to the education of future professionals, because there is always a space to let our everyday life imbue our work. Plus, idiosyncrasy cannot be eluded. There's also the recognition of the self. One of the risks when it comes to design is to end up making something unrelatable to ourselves or to the context of its communication. We should be able to trace our own standards of meaning. And talking about the specific case of Mexico, I would like to imagine design that will not seem a copy of what is being done in New York or London or Amsterdam or even Paris, which leads us to a peculiar chance. The colonization by appropriation. I understand that the different phases of colonialism have their own struggles and battlefields, but I consider that through the appropriation or reappropriation of things, like in this case, the Blackletter forms, the Blackletter letter forms, that once were medieval or European, now have become something else, became their own thing, became our own thing. This is the conformation of a new tradition. I don't pretend to define what the Mexican style is. I could not do it, even if I try anyway. But I will always be in favor of its inventiveness speaking loudly to the world. Merci beaucoup.
Gracias, Jesús. Is there any question? I can see people. There's no questions? No questions? Well, I have a comment more than a question. I think it's always, I don't know if you have been in Mexico, and it's really fascinating. If you have not been in Mexico, you have to go. And I have been in Mexico, but only few parts of Mexico. So I had not been in Puebla, for instance. So do you think that there are regions in Mexico that have more influence? Because for me, this is what you said at the end, this kind of manifesto that I really appreciate. It's about the real graphic design in a way, no? So people, they are not professionals in lettering, they don't know how to, let's say, paint mostly, because it's not even writing or drawing, it's more painting. But they take the heritage and they feel it up themselves and they use it. So this is, for me, is a kind of vernacular real graphic design. So do you think that they are concerned about where it comes from, or they just copy models or these kind of things, you know?
No, I do think that at this point, things have evolved, like, of course, naturally, and there's not like a specific way to trace back the origins, because it becomes like a repetition exercise, and every for example, every lettering, I wouldn't say lettering artist, but lettering artisan, gives like something from their own, no? So they add something, and when they teach it to another person learning, it becomes like this huge ball of influences and inventiveness. And the thing is that graphic design has been in for example, in Mexico, in the formal curriculums, probably for the last 40 years or so. It's not like a really old tradition, so we have been like we had like this stage of learning about what is said and done, and we are coming to a time where we can now add new things. As I was saying, it's not about denying the basics, but also to wonder how does people communicate locally? What are the images that they want to look? What are like the things that they relate better? And that's when I think that the vernacular can become something else. It's like a thing of how to say it, like letting the people use what they are used to see. No? Because it has happened. Sometimes design can be like too strange or too different, and that is nothing. That is nothing that is not a thing that you want to have with you. So I don't know if what I'm doing in the university is going to be to have like a good ending, no? But we need to try.
Probably there will be some people that are very interested in going deeper and trying it.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by the real graphic design in a way, because people make it as their own communication, but through identity, because they also, through this, they know they belong to something, and it's a common thing, and they are proud of this. So I think this is quite so interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there any question? Time, 26 seconds left. Okay. Okay, so if there's no questions, we will finish here. Thank you very much. Gracias, Jesús.
Thank you.
With me, Dan Radigan.